What's up, everybody? How you doing today? It's Keefe, Tuesday night Keefe, going live a little later than I planned, but still making the things happen. I am here. It's Keefe of GhostCultMag.com, and welcome to the show. We are going to talk about Despised Icon and the JUNO Awards and anything else you want to. Ophelia79NY2 is here. What's up? What's up? Thanks for being here on a Tuesday. I am just trying to bring you guys the info. You can make a case that maybe award shows in general, drop something. Maybe you can make a case that award shows are antithetical rock and metal and punk rock and everything anyway, but we're going to talk about them. I'm going to pop open my Liquid Death. Got some complaints that I wasn't being heard on the microphone quite too well. ASMR effervescence there. Hopefully it's all good. Separate lime. Only had a few of those left. Anyway, so the JUNO Awards were this weekend. It's basically the Canadian Grammys, and I'm going to break down a little bit about the awards and their history of supporting and covering rock and metal. Hey, thanks, Melissa. Yeah, Omar was saying I'm a little too low on the mic, and I need to get my shit louder. So, we're going to talk about it. I prepared a little slideshow to go along with this, because let's do that. Oh, my light went out. It's what a day. What a day. What a day. Hold on 1 second. Get the key light up. Yeah, that's a little better. A little more light on my face. And I don't know why this shit stopped. Why this shit the bed all of a sudden. But all right. Anyway, the JUNOs happened this past weekend. It's the Canadian Grammys. They spend a week celebrating Canadian music. And I did a live stream. I'll talk about it a few months ago after the Grammy Awards. Like, maybe the Grammys, the problem is the Grammys, and it's not metal and rock. And, my punk rock life is here, and John Candy is here, and Vic is here. I appreciate all of y'all. So, maybe the problem is actually the award show is the problem, not anything else. So, yeah, we're going to do the damn thing. And, we'll see if it all works out. Boom. Boom. You looking for this? So, just a little minutiae here. I'll drop the tip menu here. If you're feeling tipsy, Ghost Cult does make money from advertising. We are going to be pushing to do a little bit better in the advertising and monetizing platform areas this year. But if you're feeling tipsy, especially if you're new here, these shows will always be free. They'll be available to everybody, but I am working on trying to create new and additional content for people. I'm also trying out the little window where the comments pop up on screen, but I don't think I like it. So we'll just do it that way, or I do them one at a time as I like. So yeah, if you're feeling tipsy, you can tip us on the tip menu, or you can always tip us on at Ghost Cult Mag on YouTube with a super like or a super thanks. We will be launching membership soon as well. And here's the links. And here's our Cash App QR code in case you're interested. Steve is here as a guest. What's up? Road TV MP 4MP is here. What's up? What's up? So, thirsty boy, hungry boy tonight. I don't know. So, I did this back in the beginning of the year. The Grammys are always music's biggest night. Bam, bam, bam. The Grammys hate true metal. And listen, I love Turnstile, who they won the Grammy for the best metal album on an award that is not broadcast during the TV, that nobody gets to make a speech for. I think Turnstile's awesome. I think they're turning a whole new legion of people on to hardcore. Their shows are still really true hardcore, no matter how big they get. They still have they're on a major label, and they still have a DIY ethos, which I really like. Hey, Mr. Bong is here. But, at the same time, it's just when you see something else in your face, like the JUNOs doing such a much better job than the Grammys, I feel compelled to call it out. Do award shows matter? I think they matter to record labels. I think the bands do appreciate it. It's the same thing with the Hall of Fame. Most of these bands don't think about the Hall of Fame except the one time of the year when this is all being discussed and talked about. So just my 2 cents. And so a little history on the JUNO Awards were actually named for their original, the first president of the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission, the CRTC, Pierre JUNO, Juneau. So JUNOS is a sort of a clever portmanteau of his name, and kind of came around in the early 60s. Grammys have been around, I think, close to 70 years. So they're more or less contemporaries. JUNO Awards are 56 years old. The first actual JUNO Award was 1970, but the awards, sort of the idea of an award for musical excellence and recorded excellence, was originally the RPM Gold Leaf Awards, which is a very cool name by itself. So the JUNOs were around for a long time. And obviously, again, pop music, subgenres, things like that music nerds and journalists care about, but maybe fans don't care about as much. I think, they've been around since 1970 in the current form. And starting in 81, they had rock, hard rock, and classic rock because of the huge, decade prior and how big classic rock was. And they actually started covering metal in the 90s, which again, perhaps coinciding with Metallica and the Black Album and things like that. But they've had a heavy metal, they've had hard rock and harder rock categories since the 90s. And they officially launched a metal and hard rock category in 2012, just to be clear. And again, if anybody here is Canadian and you want to sound off about your favorite Canadian metal band or not Canadian, and if you have a favorite Canadian metal band, hey, Jujubee, thanks so much for the hearts on the gram. If you've got a favorite Canadian metal band, drop it like it's hot in the comments. But I do want to say that I think it's really cool that they have been, very consistent over time. So, even less than 15 years ago to start covering underground metal, basically, is a very big thing. And we've had the Metal Hammer Golden God Awards, and Revolver had an award show at one point, and that's cool. That all supported our love of underground heavy music. But the JUNOs have been doing it longer and arguably better than anybody else. So, obviously the number one story that everybody was talking about was the reunion of Rush. Rush came on and played the very first song from their first album. They're about to kick off this huge 50-something world tour that sold out tremendously, and ticket prices went absolutely, bananas. It was really cool to see Geddy and Alex interact and be on stage again and say Neil would think we're idiots for doing this at this age, but cool for them. At this point, I don't think I'm going to see Rush in this incarnation unless the ticket prices somehow come down for future years or something. I think they would be perfect to play the Sphere. It was a really nice coming out party. I don't even know that America has their equivalent of Rush. I guess it would be Aerosmith, which isn't as great, to be honest with you, despite some greatness that they have. And, but it was really fun to see. But obviously that overshadowed the news for metalheads that Despised Icon won the Metal and Hard Music Award of the Year, which is, no small feat for their album in 2025, Shadow Work, which was on the top 75 albums for Ghost Cult's Album of the Year. I can link that in the description if people are curious about that list. Still has a life to it. So let's just quickly talk about, before I get into Despised Icon's win, I thought it would be interesting to just run down the albums, the most recent album of the year for rock and metal, the heavy, they've originally titled the Metal and Hard Music Album of the Year for 3 years. 2012 saw Ken Mode's Venerable. Jackson asked if I think Cannibal Corpse is overrated. Absolutely not. Cannibal Corpse is, to me, the best death metal band of all time. And I'm a bass player, and I love Alex, and no judgment there. Ken Mode, Venerable, was the album of the year in 2012. Woods of You Pray, Woods 5, Gray Skies and Electric Light, I believe the posthumous album for David Gold. So like right off the bat, that's amazing. Like that's amazing that Ken Mode and Woods of You Pray, they would never be considered. Hey, Blackie Chan 888 is here. Welcome, welcome. We're just talking about the JUNO Awards and Despised Icon and the JUNO's history of covering underground metal and why the Grammys suck at it, period. Ken Mode and Woods of You Pray. Woods 5, incredible album. Protest the Hero in 2014. Devin Townsend won his first JUNO in 2015 for Z2, Ziltoid 2. Then they renamed it the Heavy Metal Album of the Year in 2016, and Cataclysm won, Of Ghosts and Gods. Great band, Cataclysm. Saw them. They beat out Ken Mode's next album, actually, to win that, which is pretty interesting. Mandroid Echo Star, which is kind of a come and gone underground progressive metal band, won in 2017. And they beat the Despised Icon, which is super interesting. Thanks for following, Jack. I will follow you at the end of this broadcast. 2018, Ancients won, one of the greatest bands. I believe they were the winner last year. Voice of the Void, great band. Voivod won in 2019 for The Wake, one of my favorite albums of all time, going back to high school, Voivod. Also beating Ken Mode, beating Cancer Bats a few times, which is super interesting. Stryker won in 2020 for Play to Win. Great band I've interviewed before, a lot of fun. Unleash the Archers won for Abyss in 2021. Pretty great. Beating out Annihilator, Cataclysm, Protest the Hero, and Vile Creature, who are amazing. Archspire, another death metal band, won in 2022 for Bleed the Future. Voivod won again for Synchro Anarchy in 2023. Cryptopsy won in 24 for As Gamora Burns, kind of their comeback album. Again, beating Ken Mode. Voivod nominated again. Cataclysm nominated again. And Danko Jones, really a hard rock band, not really hard metal or hard music, but okay. And then 2025, Ancients won, Beyond the Reach of the Sun, beating out Kitties, Comeback EP, Fire, Spirit Box's EP, Stryker's new album, and Devin Townsend for Power Nerd. And then Despised Icon won this year. And so let's talk about this year's win, because I think it's inherently interesting. So Despised Icon wins for Shadow Work, and I'll read a quote from them later on in the broadcast. Beating out counterparts, the hugely popular hardcore, metallic hardcore band Heaven Let Them Die. Cryptopsy, another great album, and Insatiable Violence. They're on tour supporting that album now. Silverstein, hard music, I guess, works, but they're really metalcore with brutal vocals. But I'm a big Silverstein fan. You can watch an interview with Shane Told and myself here on the channel on YouTube. And also Unrequited. So even a black metal band, Woods of You Pray, for as much black metal influence as they had, are they truly what you think of when you think of a black metal band? So really not a lot of black metal typically getting there. Unrequited is an incredible project. A Pathway to the Moon, phenomenal album. And so, I think that it's super interesting that they, the very crowded field. And interestingly enough, that Spirit Box was not nominated for Tsunami Sea. We'll talk about Spirit Box a little bit more in a minute. So their rock album of the year is The Beaches, which is kind of a punk rock, alternative rock band. Great album. Getting hugely popular across Canada. And I believe they're playing Warped Tour coming up soon. And The Beaches beat out Bryan Adams, who we saw at the Rock Hall last fall, doing a tremendous job emceeing and singing, the Roll with the Punches. I don't think I'm familiar with that recent Bryan Adams album. The Blue Stones, Metro, which is a big hard rock blues-inspired hard rock band. Kind of the Canadian Greta Van Fleet, but less insincere and more original. The Damn Truth self-titled album. Grandson, one of the most underrated punk rock albums of last year. So this is Rock Album of the Year. Grandson was nominated for Inertia, and 3 Days Grace Alienation with their comeback of the two singers. 3 Days Grace X2 as they're being billed on tours. So really fun. Also good for The Beaches to win. We reviewed that album and a few of these albums, and pretty well. Spirit Box did end up getting nominated. This is super interesting. Like, you think about all the ancillary Grammy awards would never go. All the little minutiae awards, none are too small or too big, but they would never get, like, a rock or metal band almost is never nominated for some of the smaller categories. So actually, album artwork of the year went to Spirit Box's album Tsunami Sea and their two creators, Kevin Moore and Kyle Joinson. So I think that was kind of a bone mow to Spirit Box to not get nominated for metal, which is weird because they're bigger in America than they are in Canada, but okay. And then again, this Rush News kind of upstaged Despised Icon in a way, which, of course it did. It broke the internet. We got a bunch of views on our socials and our website. Thanks to Omar for getting that done on the weekend when I was off. Blackie Chan writes, as a UK citizen, I don't closely pay attention to the JUNO Awards, but I am loving listening to the awards. Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, they have nominated and they have paid care to metal bands and hard rock, at least a little. And they have an alternative rock category that was mostly like Canadian artists that I'm not familiar with, and nobody internationally known that I can think of. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about Despised Icon. Oh, also, they gave an award to Joni Mitchell for a Lifetime Achievement Award. Love to see it. We're losing a lot of our older legends in the last few weeks, even in hard rock and metal, but nice to see Joni Mitchell get honored, come up and make a speech. They did a tribute to her with some very popular artists. That was really cool. And she sang as well. I thought that was nice. There's also, in addition to obviously rap and pop and, country and different kinds of country, there's a Francophile award for French-speaking Canadian music, which is cool, and also an Indigenous award for Indigenous artists. So, hey, Grammys, pay attention to what your Northern fellows are doing, your brethren, and see what they're doing, because that's leading the way in those categories, like in those kind of ideas. I think that's very open-minded and cool. But let's talk a little bit about Despised Icon's win for a second, because Shadowwork's a hell of a record. Like I said, did end up in the Ghost Cult Top 75 Albums of the Year, and I will drop it in the description. And so here's a quote from the band. Fresh off the critical acclaim of Shadowwork, Despised Icon maintained their unstoppable momentum this past weekend, securing a JUNO Award for Metal and Hard Music Album of the Year, further solidifying their status as pioneers of the Canadian scene. And they really were seen as sort of one of the first deathcore bands. This is going back to the 90s. They had a big run for maybe 15 years, broke up for a while, and then reunited a few years ago. And this was their comeback album. So Despised Icon comments, shout out to our brothers in Cryptopsy, to Chris Donaldson for nailing the mix on our record. Big thank you to our boy Tommy, it's Tommy Jones of Nuclear Blast. Everyone at Nuclear Blast Records for supporting us. A quick shout out to the JUNOs for recognizing that Canadian death metal, Canadian hardcore is part of Canadian culture. And most importantly, much love to our amazing girlfriends, our families, our friends, our fans, our team, our crew. This is for Montreal. Merci. And Despised Icon will also play the Vans Warped Tour this summer in Montreal, as well as an appearance at the Envol et Macadam Festival in Quebec City. Additional tour dates coming soon. So again, I think, and there's nice photos of them, posing with the award, which is super cool. And, Shadowwork is out streaming now, and you can still buy the vinyl and things from Nuclear Blast Records, and produced by the band's members, as well as Christian Donaldson of Cryptopsy for mixing and mastering. People know Christian's long history as an uber producer, if you will, in rock and metal. Have mostly read Louder Sounds for JUNO Awards. I absolutely love Joni Mitchell, so I'm loving her shoutouts. Yeah, thank you. Louder Sound, huge website. They're the Loudwire of Europe, and we're a small, we're really building a coalition of metal besties around the world, of DIY journalism with integrity. I had a pretty tremendous interview today with Neurosis that's coming soon on their comeback record. It was a great honor for me to get selected among the many people trying to get an interview with the band right now. And, we're just trying to build something special. Blackie Chan, you've been here for a long time off and on. You're a real one, and we greatly appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody else. A little programming note before I get out the door in a very manageable 21 minutes. I'll be back tomorrow night with another live stream and album review. I will be back Thursday afternoon, evening with my weekly show, a full rundown of all the week's news, tours announced, metal festivals to talk about, interviews and things we've done, drama, all the things. But I just wanted to show some love to the JUNOs and show some love to Despised Icon because people are not really talking about this as much as they should. I'm Keith at ghostcultmag.com. If you're new here, please like and subscribe and follow us on all the things. It does help. And again, be good. I'll see you tomorrow. Check out ghostcultmag.com for more news, reviews, and stories soon. Blackie Chan, thank you. Melissa, my love, thank you. Everybody else, peace. Thanks for everything.